All right. So again, if everything is going according to plan right now, I should be streaming live both to YouTube and to Instagram. So um, I wanted to hop on here really quick, do a very, very quick hot take on the essentially sexual assault that happened at a wedding, I think from last year in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. According to a story which I will link in the description of this YouTube video, a couple got married, and then they had the reception at a wedding venue at a country club. So there's the receptions there, dinners there, all the trappings of the reception occur. Apparently, the groom gets a little bit drinky, and essentially propositions an underage waitress. Hey, Holly, an underage waitress at this venue. Again, this is this guy's wedding reception, and he has propositioned sexually an underage waitress or server at this venue. Later on through the evening, I'm assuming that he gets a little bit more drunk, and then he follows this lady into the bathroom where he exposes himself in a stall and attempts essentially to assault her. Now, the reason why I'm even talking about this is because how does the world of intentional torts and crime interrelate with the concept of contracts and breach of contracts? So in other words, what are the contractual obligations of a wedding venue if the couple or a guest or an attendee sexually assaults one of your staff members? What are the contractual obligations at that point? And so the hot take in this episode is that a couple things. Number one is that anything that is not baseline, not a term in the contract, a violation of a term in the contract, is technically a breach of contract. So there are a million ways that you can breach a contract. If you're late by 30 minutes, if if you're the wedding venue and the food is, some of the food is cold, whatever the case may be, these are what we would call a breach of contract. Now, in the case of the wedding venue is not ready to go and it takes them 30 more minutes for everybody to load in. Let's just say that's the example, that the wedding venue is 30 minutes late. Okay. Technically, the couple, depending on circumstances, can sue the venue and they would be awarded damages. But in this instance, they're probably not damaged very much. Okay. However, in that instance, they have to keep going. In other words, if it's a minor breach of contract, typically the parties still have to keep going and fulfill their obligations. So in the instance of the wedding venue being 30 minutes later, whatever the case may be, a minor breach, everybody has to keep going. Okay. What about a sexual assault? Well, how does a sexual assault relate to whether or not I got to keep, I can't be sexually assaulted and then serve you tater tots. So there is the concept of material breach. So we just talked about minor breaches. There's the concept of material breach. Material breach, most of the time, does what's called discharge duties. So if a material breach occurs, typically the parties don't have to keep going and trying to fulfill the contract. The material breacher is now done something toward the other side can discontinue performance most of the time. That's material breach. So the hot take for today is that in your contract, it's important to lay out, number one, that the client is responsible for the behavior of the attendees and obviously is responsible for their own behavior. The client is responsible for what they do, and you make the client responsible for the conduct of the attendees. That's number one. Number two, what you can do is you can set out in the contract, okay, here is the behavior that is not okay. Sexual assault, abusive behavior. If you're taunting somebody, if you're getting physically aggressive, these are the behaviors that are not tolerated. And you can do degrees of this in terms of like, I'm going to give you a warning, or if it's something crazy, no warning. That's up to you in your contract, but you have the ability to lay out what conduct constitutes material breach. And you can say, all right, once you have committed this and I've given you a chance to mitigate or to cure it or kick the person out or whatever, and you haven't done that or it continues, that will constitute a material breach, and we're going to pack up our stuff and we're going to go. You can make sexual assault or assault of any kind or physically abusive behavior, if you want to, you can make that a material breach in your contract, and it will allow you to go, I'm out of here. See you later, without the issue of them having to sue you because you breached the contract. So again, there are all different ways that you can breach a contract, but you got to keep going. There's all kinds of ways they can breach a contract, but they've got to keep going. It is when there is a material breach, that is when typically the other party is going to be discharged from further performance. Okay. And you can lay that out in your contract if you so desire. And in this instance, this venue could do well by that. So in other words, the underage waitress goes to her supervisor at the venue and goes, hey, the client just propositioned me for sex or is making me feel unwanted. That's when the venue can go, listen, this conduct is not appropriate. If it continues, we're going to shut this down at your risk of loss, not ours. And obviously if the client keeps doing it, or if a guest attendant keeps doing it, you can shut it down. It's got to make sure that's in your contract so that you're fully protected. But that's typically how you can do it, and that is my hot take. I just saw this, and again, if you're interested in reading this super egregious story, I'll leave a link down in the YouTube comments below, and you can check it out. But it was a wedding video. I don't want to name the parties. The guy was just pled guilty to the sexual assault, I think, earlier this week. But anyway, I just saw it pop up in my little Google alerts, and I wanted to talk about it. So hopefully you found this informative. Hopefully you found it, useful. So make sure that if you like the content, hit like and subscribe on YouTube. If you dig it, check it out on Instagram. If you have any questions, or if you have any comments about what we were talking about, hit me up. I'd love to hear from you. And with that, we'll see you next time.